Olivia. William, what happened? In front of me, as I returned home from work, there was an astonishing scene. My daughter Olivia and my husband William were both collapsed in the living room, rushing over in a panic. Neither of them were breathing. Nearby, a rope and what seemed to be a suicide note were haphazardly placed. Trembling, I picked up the note. Reading its contents, my mind went blank. What on earth? William taking Olivia's life. From then on, in disbelief, I went through with their funerals. The police quickly concluded their investigation, aligning with the contents of the note. In other words, it was deemed a murder-suicide. That's impossible. William wouldn't do such a thing. As I stood there dumbfounded, someone unexpected visited me. And then, an astonishing truth came to light. I immediately informed the police and persistently pleaded for them to reinvestigate. Eventually, the police reluctantly agreed to reopen the case. They visited my home days later.
I'm sorry. It wasn't a murder-suicide,
one of the officers said slowly, looking uncomfortable.
The two of them.
As the truth was revealed thereafter, I was filled with an unbelievable mix of emotions. My name is Mary Smith. I'm turning 50 this year. I work as a part-time employee at a small local company, alongside managing my household. My husband, William, is 52 years old, 2 years older than me. He works as a section chief in the general affairs department of a small to medium-sized enterprise. We have one child, Olivia, who is 11 years old and in the 5th grade. However, Olivia is not our biological child. She is adopted. William and I got married in our 20s, but we couldn't have children. We underwent infertility treatments for a long time. However, the burden on my body was significant, and before I turned 40, we decided to give up. Instead, we discussed and decided to adopt a child. That child turned out to be Olivia. Olivia grew up healthily and became a kind and obedient child. Whether she's our biological child or not doesn't matter. We cherish Olivia above all else. We share a bond that's no different from an ordinary family, if not stronger. To think such a chilling event could happen to us. I couldn't believe it. No, I still can't. But it's the harsh reality that we're facing.
Mom, I'm home.
In the evening, Olivia returned home as usual with her cheerful voice. Behind her were her classmates, whom she's been getting along with recently.
Hi, we're here.
Excuse me.
Welcome. It's Lucas and Jennifer. Lucas is a mischievous boy who excels at games, while Jennifer is a diligent honor student. Somehow, they get along well, and recently, they've been exclusively playing together as a trio. They promptly enter Olivia's room and seem to be enjoying games together. The sound of their laughter is heartwarming. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, I prepared snacks for the three of them. I bought a reasonably priced pound cake from a pastry shop near the station. I briefly wondered if it's too cheap, but then I reminded myself that there's no need to show off. The truth is, the elementary school Olivia attends is attended by many wealthy families. This is because many excellent local companies are lined up nearby, naturally attracting company presidents and the like. We got the land cheaply from William's relatives and just happened to build a house there. It's not like we have a lot of money. So, this was unexpected. At events like the elementary school's parent-teacher conferences, there were many parents dressed in glamorous outfits and carrying expensive branded items. I felt a bit uncomfortable in that atmosphere. Being a no-brand person, I stood out, and even at subsequent PTA meetings, the conversations were dominated by discussions of overseas trips and fancy restaurants. I still vividly remember feeling out of place. Consequently, naturally, their children also wear nice clothes and have refined tastes. Thinking about that, I hesitated to serve cheap snacks to Olivia's friends, knowing they could tell. But there's no need to go out of my way to serve luxury snacks to children. It's not good to spoil Olivia with extravagance from a young age. I gathered myself, knocked on Olivia's door, and went inside. Today's snack is pound cake. Enjoy it together, everyone. The kids cheered.
Yay, thanks, Auntie.
Thank you.
Lucas's eyes sparkled, and Jennifer thanked me in her cute way.
Thanks, Mom.
Olivia also smiled. Children are innocent, regardless of adult concerns, I thought to myself. But then Lucas unexpectedly remarked,
Auntie, this is the cheapest $1.52 pound cake from the shop near the station, right?
Oh, well, you know it well, Lucas, but even though it's cheap, it's really delicious. I replied, feeling a bit nervous as if he could see through me.
That shop has the best $6 cheesecake. Isn't it true that the more expensive it is, the better it tastes? Is your family struggling financially, Olivia?
Lucas's straightforward questioning left me and Olivia with puzzled expressions. Do families have conversations like this at home? As I pondered how to respond, Jennifer came to the rescue.
That's not okay, Lucas. It's rude to talk about prices like that.
Oh, come on. It's not a big deal. By the way, the cake we ordered from a famous pastry chef the other day at home was so delicious.
Lucas continued, boasting without a care. I was taken aback by his attitude, but Olivia and Jennifer nodded along with interest. Well, I suppose it's the age where kids want to show off about something. With the children getting excited, I left Olivia's room. That night, William returned home. We gathered around the dining table, and as usual, Olivia started chatting.
We played games together today. I managed to beat Jennifer, but I can't win against Lucas. He's really good at games, you know. Plus, he's so knowledgeable and a foodie too.
Yay, I see. I casually replied. Recalling today's events left me with mixed feelings, but since Olivia didn't seem bothered by it, I was relieved for the moment. Still, I didn't expect Lucas to suddenly bring up the topic of prices. I believe Lucas's family was supposed to be wealthy. I remember seeing Lucas's mother at a parent-teacher conference, dressed in luxurious clothes and giving me disdainful looks. With that demeanor, it's likely that everything in their household is high-end, and they probably only eat expensive things on a regular basis. Cheap pound cake, like what I bought, is probably beneath their notice. William, who seems unaware of such matters, smiles happily.
I'm glad you have good friends.
Yet, ever since we got into this class, every day has been so much fun.
It's a peaceful moment, just like always. I felt at ease. Little did I know that such peaceful days would suddenly collapse. A sense of unease crept in. Lately, Olivia seemed a bit down. I wondered if something happened at school. Maybe she had a fight with her friends or was struggling with her studies. Lately, She hasn't been eating much dinner and has been spending more time locked up in her room. Even today, she went straight to her room as soon as she came home. Before, she would come in and say, "I'm hungry," and then cheerfully come to the kitchen to talk about what happened at school today. Feeling worried, I bought Olivia's favorite muffin on my way home from work. I thought we could eat it together, and I could listen to her troubles. "Olivia, I got us a snack." Imagining Olivia's delighted face, I absent-mindedly opened the door without knocking.
Wait, don't come in.
Olivia shouted in a panic, and something fell from her hands. Sorry. Hey, what's this?" I picked it up from the floor. Olivia turned pale. It was a pregnancy test kit. What? There was a clear line in the positive column. "Why, what's this? What is it?" I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and my voice trembled.
That's...
Olivia began, but then fell silent. No matter how much I asked, got angry, or tried anything, Olivia wouldn't say a word. All I could confirm was that this pregnancy test belonged to Olivia, which meant Olivia was pregnant. I couldn't believe it. True, Olivia started her period this year, but she's still in elementary school, still a child. I've heard that some kids her age already have boyfriends, but Olivia isn't that type. Even when I asked who it was, Olivia wouldn't say. Could it be that someone forced her? The thought sent shivers down my spine. What kind of person would do such a thing to a child like her? I persisted until the very end, trying to get Olivia to talk, but it was no use. Finally, she burst into tears. At that point, I was at a loss. I proceeded to prepare dinner, which had been left unfinished, and engaged with William when he returned home. The dinner table, with just the three of us, was unusually quiet.
I'm going to bed.
Olivia said that as usual, eating little and quickly retreating to her room. Wait, Olivia, we're not done talking yet. But calling out to her was in vain. She wouldn't say a word. Eventually, William, sensing something was off, asked,
"What's wrong? You two were silent during dinner. Did you have a fight?"
I let out a deep sigh at William's words. Well, you see. After some thought, I decided to confide in William. I couldn't handle such a serious matter on my own. Upon hearing the story, William was shocked.
"No way. Are you sure it's not some mistake?"
But I saw it with my own eyes, and Olivia herself said, "This is mine." When I said that, William's face contorted as he shouted,
"But Olivia is still in elementary school. Who on earth would do such a thing with her?"
I voiced my suspicions. Come to think of it, I received an email warning about a suspicious person lurking near the school the other day. I don't want to think about it, but could it be?
It's possible. Maybe she was approached by a suspicious person on her way home from school.
William nodded in agreement. Yeah, that could be why she can't talk about it. But if she's really pregnant, it's going to be tough. We need to take her to the obstetrician.
You're right, and I'll try to talk to Olivia myself. Depending on how things go, we might have to involve the police.
The mention of the police made me feel dizzy. This situation had become unbelievable. But we needed to catch the culprit quickly. I couldn't forgive anyone who would subject an elementary school student to such a thing. We needed to take action immediately. Luckily, tomorrow was Saturday, and everyone was off. I would persuade Olivia to go to the hospital or the police. Having made up our minds, We were prepared for what was to come. The next day, after finishing breakfast, as I was about to talk to Olivia, my phone rang. Hello? Oh, really? It was my boss from work. It seemed that there was some trouble, and I was asked if I could come in. Our workplace consists of the president, his wife, one full-time manager, and 2 part-time workers, including myself, totaling 5 people. Normally, part-time workers don't work on weekends, but they needed extra help. But I hesitated, but since they said it will be finished by lunchtime, I reluctantly agreed to take it on. I explained the situation to William and told him that I had to go to work. William accepted and said he would talk to Olivia. I was anxious. The job was to fix a mistake in the order, and although it was supposed to be done by lunch, it ended up being extended until 3 o'clock. I wondered if William and Olivia were getting tired of waiting. I'm home, I called out as I hurried back, but there was no response from anyone. Feeling suspicious, I entered the living room. To my surprise, I was greeted with a shocking sight. Olivia and William were lying face down. Olivia, William, what's wrong? I rushed over in a panic, but neither of them was breathing. Nearby, there was a rope and what seemed to be a suicide note, carelessly placed. The note read as follows.
I'm sorry. I'm the one who violated Olivia. I don't expect to be forgiven. Taking responsibility, I will leave this world with Olivia.
My mind went blank as I read it. What on earth? William was the one who got Olivia pregnant. And on top of that, to take such drastic measures. Trembling, I dialed for an ambulance and the police. Sure enough, both of them had passed away. I could barely stand, overwhelmed by the events unfolding before me. This is a nightmare. It doesn't feel like real life. Despite my confusion, the police proceeded with their duties in an indifferent manner. The scene was quickly examined, and then I was taken to the police station for questioning. There, I had to speak about things that were too painful to put into words. That Olivia wasn't my biological daughter, that she was pregnant, and that we were on our way to the hospital and police station just before this happened. Being detained for so long and constantly talking had left me exhausted. I was also grappling with the emotional shock and feeling mentally foggy. That's when it happened. The middle-aged detective facing me looked at me sympathetically.
Your husband must have been quite panicked. If you had gone to the hospital, they would have run tests and his relationship with your daughter would have been exposed.
In response to those words, I snapped back. My husband isn't like that. There must be some mistake.
Ma'am, I hate to say this, but these kinds of incidents are surprisingly common. She's not your biological child, right? It's possible you adopted her for that purpose from the beginning.
The detective's blunt words left me stunned. How dare you? What are you saying? Both my husband and I have raised Olivia with love and care. It's unthinkable to have such shady intentions. As I said this, the detective's expression became even more pitying.
Well, I understand you'd like to believe that, but you know, men can have faces they don't show their wives.
William isn't like that. I wanted to say it, but my mouth just wouldn't cooperate. Exhaustion and anger had reached their limit, and I couldn't speak anymore. It seems that they've concluded it was a suicide pact based on the contents of that note. That's just impossible. No matter how much I insisted, the police wouldn't listen to me. As a result, No further detailed investigation was conducted. Eventually, Olivia and William's funerals were held. Despite going through the procedures, I still couldn't believe it. It felt like a dream, with disbelief coursing through my entire body. My mind was always clouded as if with fog, but with the help of my parents, we managed to get through the funeral somehow. Olivia's school friends, especially her close friends Jennifer and Lucas, also attended. William has friends and colleagues from work as well. Everyone was overwhelmed with sadness. However, the way they passed away was so tragic that it couldn't be ignored how delicately people treated the situation. Despite not wanting to hear it, I overheard whispers from mourners.
It seems like that husband could only love small children.
To do such a thing to a child not his own. What a terrible incident.
No, that's not true. I wanted to scream and refute it all. Why did the conversation steer in this direction? William would never do such a thing. Something must be wrong. I thought so, but I couldn't do anything about it. Lately, I've been unable to sleep and eat, day after day. I was completely worn out. My life had been so ordinary until now. So why did things have to turn out like this? With no energy to do anything, time just passed by. It was one day, like any other. The doorbell rang, and I opened the door. It was Jennifer and her mother. I haven't seen her since the funeral. Her face looked even more swollen with tears than it did then.
Auntie,
Thank you for coming, Jennifer. I forced a smile onto my tired face as I said that, and guided them to the living room. Jennifer, still crying, offered her prayers for Olivia.
Olivia, I wanted to play more with you. I wanted to play games and study together with you. Olivia, I miss you.
The pure voice of the child almost brought tears to my eyes again. But soon, Jennifer's demeanor changed. She started crying harder and harder.
I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Huh? What do you mean? It's your fault. She fell silent. In place of the silent Jennifer, Jennifer's mother spoke up.
Actually, there's something Jennifer told me.
And then she relayed something. It was a shocking revelation. I see. I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me, Jennifer. After hearing the story, I was left dumbfounded.
I think it's best to inform the police about this fact,
Jennifer's mother said firmly. But I couldn't help but hang my head. But it seems like it's already being treated as a suicide pact. Then, unexpectedly, Jennifer's mother said,
I have relatives in the police force. I'll inform them, and I'll also ask them to somehow initiate a investigation.
Please, ma'am, I beg you to. As it is now, Olivia and Uncle are in such a pitiful situation.
Jennifer also pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. Their words stirred my weakened heart ever so slightly. Got it. I wanted to uncover what happened to Olivia and William. Since Jennifer and her family were willing to cooperate, I decided to muster all my strength and do whatever I could. A few days later, I went to the police station to share the facts conveyed by Jennifer and her mother. I briefed the elderly detective I had spoken to before. So I don't think it was a suicide pact. Please, conduct another investigation. But the detective looked reluctant.
Even if you say that, the case was closed according to your husband's suicide note. There's no need for further investigation.
With a sigh, I made a formal request sincerely to the detective's indifferent expression. I'm begging you, please reconsider. I pleaded persistently, but the detective's response remained unchanged. Moreover, he started saying things like, "We have other cases to deal with. We're busy." There was no other choice at this point. I mentioned the name of the relative who works in the police force, as I had heard from Jennifer's mother. When I mentioned that I had spoken to that person, the detective suddenly turned pale.
Excuse me.
Saying so, he left the room, and after a while, he returned with someone who seemed like his superior. Then, suddenly, in a polite tone, they said, "We will conduct a reinvestigation." I was surprised by this. It seems that the police contact related to Jennifer's mother is quite influential. In any case, it was positive development. I took a deep breath in relief. And then, things took a significant turn. A few days later, 2 police officers showed up at the house. There was a different atmosphere than before, and they seemed apologetic. As they were ushered into the living room, they immediately apologized.
I'm sorry. We were investigating it as a case of suicide pact, but it wasn't the case.
I knew it. I muttered. One of the police officers conveyed to me with a solemn expression.
Both of them were killed by a third party.
The police, conducting the investigation again, thoroughly examined every aspect. They retook fingerprints from the house, reviewed personal belongings and security camera footage, and conducted interviews with the neighbors. As a result, they found footage from a security camera near the residence, showing the car of the new suspect. It was Lori and Sam, the parents of Olivia's friend Lucas. They were the ones who harmed Olivia and William. Actually, it was Lucas who got Olivia pregnant. That was the confession I heard from Jennifer that day. According to her, the origin of the matter dated back several months ago. Lucas, who was curious and knowledgeable, seemed to awaken to sex one day under the influence of adult movies and comics. Out of curiosity, he proposed to Jennifer, "Let's play adults." Jennifer didn't have much knowledge and didn't really understand what the act entailed. However, she somehow felt uneasy intuitively. So Jennifer declined. She felt uncomfortable spreading such stories and kept it to herself, unable to confide in anyone. Since then, Lucas gave up trying to persuade Jennifer. Instead, he moved on to Olivia. According to Jennifer, Olivia also seemed to lack knowledge about sex. Even from my perspective, Olivia appeared innocent and didn't seem to have any interest in such matters.
I think Olivia couldn't refuse Lucas's request because she's kind-hearted. She probably didn't understand what it would lead to. So, I should have said, even if Lucas asks, just say no. If I had done that, things wouldn't have turned out like this. It's my fault.
Jennifer said that while crying. She seemed to regret not giving the advice. Meanwhile, the situation took a turn for the worst. Both of them passed away. When Jennifer attended the funeral, she was shocked to learn that Olivia's father, William, was being suspected. It seemed she summoned up the courage and confided in her own mother, realizing she couldn't keep quiet any longer. And then Jennifer's mother, who knew everything, brought Jennifer to my house.
It was Lucas who got Olivia pregnant. Since he's not your husband, there's no reason to keep silent. Perhaps it's difficult to say this, but they might have been taken out by adults around Lucas to silence them.
Jennifer's mother found it difficult to say what she thought truly happened, but her dreadful prediction turned out to be true. Lucas's parents, Lori and Sam, had devised a plan. It started when they learned about Olivia's pregnancy. Olivia, confused by the changes in her body, must have conveyed the current situation to Lucas. Naturally, it reached the ears of Lucas's parents from Lucas himself. Lori and Sam panicked. The Lucas family was prestigious, with relatives holding high social status. They are all elites. It is strictly forbidden for a child who was still in elementary school to be involved in any sex scandal. So the two of them decided to take action before the situation escalated. Perhaps they had even contemplated a story where Olivia met with an unfortunate end after being approached by a predator. Initially, it seemed they planned to lure Olivia somewhere alone. Most likely, Olivia, given some pretext, was intending to go out alone. This all unfolded on a Saturday morning, after I had left for work. However, upon learning of it, William undoubtedly confronted Olivia about it. At that moment, Olivia told William the truth. And together, Olivia and William went to Lucas's home. However, this was an unexpected turn of events for Lori and Sam. They had instructed Olivia to come secretly, without informing her parents, and since William followed, the plan was ruined. Panicked, Lori and Sam changed their plan. They decided to take action against Olivia and William, making it look like a double suicide. And when it was all over, they brought the bodies to our living room. Next to Olivia and William, they left a rope and a suicide note. The content is that William looked at Olivia with sexual intent and ended up impregnating her, so he had no choice but to take action. The will was forged on the computer to avoid detection by handwriting. The two of them also wore gloves meticulously to avoid leaving fingerprints at the house. The plan went off without a hitch. I wondered why the police investigation was so sloppy, but there was a reason for that too. It was because of the peculiar customs of this area. In regions with many wealthy people and business owners, the police tended to support them in various ways. It was convenient for both parties to do so, as they received various favors from each other. Therefore, being neither wealthy or running a company, I, a so-called outsider, was at a disadvantage from the start. Since there was no payoff for putting effort into investigating outsiders, it naturally turned into a shoddy job. Even in a situation that seemed to indicate that a third party had committed the murder, the police, without conducting proper investigations, simply accepted the suicide note as evidence of a murder-suicide. It seemed that this incident would have been buried in darkness. However, an unexpected savior appeared. That was the Jennifer family. The fact that Jennifer's mother had relatives in the police force probably meant they weren't just ordinary officers. It's likely that they're quite influential within the police force. If not, there's no way they would have initiated a reinvestigation. I found out later that the elderly detective who was in charge of me had been demoted. This, too, can be attributed to the influential police contacts of the Jennifer family. Upon re-examination, footage from neighborhood security cameras showed Lori and Sam's car. Of course, that alone isn't conclusive evidence. However, a testimony from a neighbor who claimed to have seen a suspicious couple entering and leaving the house was also obtained. Based on this information, a search warrant was issued for Lori and Sam's residence. It's unclear whether they anticipated this turn of events, but the Lucas family's house had been meticulously cleaned. Not a single fingerprint was found, but luck was on our side. Fibers from the clothing Olivia wore that day were discovered in Lucas's house. Additionally, footprints believed to belong to William were found at the front entrance. Based on this evidence, Lucas's parents, Lori and Sam, were arrested. Initially, they attempted to lie, but when confronted with the evidence, they confessed readily. They admitted to taking the lives of Olivia and William, all to conceal the shocking scandal of Lucas, an elementary school student, impregnating Olivia. With that, the suspicion toward William has been cleared. I feel a tiny bit relieved. It's just too sad for William to be not only deceased but also falsely branded as a criminal. Subsequently, this incident became a big news story and caused a commotion in society. On television and in magazines, it was featured as the dark side of a wealthy family, and apparently, photos of the Lucas family were circulating on social media. I say apparently because I haven't actually seen them. A friend or acquaintance told me, but I made a point not to absorb uncertain information from the internet. From now on, I have to fight in real places. That's the court. As a bereaved family member, I decided to utilize the victim participation system and appear in court. I just can't let those people off without saying a word. Instead of moping around like this, I want to strike back. On the day of the trial, as soon as I took my seat, my eyes immediately fell on Lori and Sam. Both of them looked downcast, aged. Doing so, they didn't look glamorous or wealthy at all. But more than that, I struggled to contain the anger and sadness that kept welling up one after another. I can never forgive the fact that Olivia and William were killed just for the sake of these people's appearances. Prompted by the judge, I made a statement. Olivia wasn't our biological child, but we raised her with love and care. Do you understand the sadness of having that suddenly taken away for unjust reasons? And on top of that, you plotted to kill my husband and even tried to brand him as a criminal. I won't forgive you for taking 2 lives just for the sake of appearances, to cover up your child's wrongdoing with such ridiculous reasons. I demand the death penalty. I shouted, and the courtroom fell silent. Lori and Sam were pale-faced and trembling. Had they just realized the magnitude of the crimes they had committed? But it was too late. Reflecting on their actions after taking someone's life was futile. If possible, I want them back. If that's impossible, I want Lori and Sam to pay with their lives, I thought. And then, the verdict was announced. As requested, the 2 were sentenced to death. Honestly, I felt relieved for the time being. We don't know when the sentence will be carried out. Lori and Sam will spend their days until then in fear. Olivia and William won't come back, but I want them to understand even a little bit of the fear the 2 experienced. It's truly pitiful that they were robbed of their lives for such a ridiculous reason as appearances. And there's one more person involved in this case. Lucas. While he wasn't directly involved in the incident that took Olivia and William's lives, it's a fact that he impregnated Olivia. The body has already been cremated, so we can't confirm it per se. But Lucas confessed, and there were testimonies from both parents. However, Lucas is in elementary school and still a minor. Children under 14 cannot be subjected to punishment. Therefore, a report was made to Child Protective Services, and he was placed in a foster care facility. He's now facing the crime he himself committed, crying and regretting. He's still a kid but succumbed to desires and curiosity, hurting Olivia in the process. I hope he never forgets that, and I hope he sincerely reflects on it. Later, I reported the outcome of the trial at the graveside of Olivia and William. William, your name has been cleared. Olivia, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, but those guys got the death penalty. That doesn't mean you two are coming back, but justice has been served, so rest in peace. With that, the flowers I had just offered swayed slightly. It might have been the wind, but it felt as if the two of them had responded, and tears welled up in my eyes. And then, 10 years passed. I now live in a city far away from that place. It's tough being in a place filled with memories of Olivia and William. That's one reason. But more than anything, I've grown tired of being in a place where only the wealthy gather. Chasing appearances and social status, people flocked to vested interests. It's what ultimately led to Olivia and William losing their lives. I couldn't help but see it as foolish, and I no longer had any reason to be in such a corrupt land. Afterward, I've been working while actively involved in the Crime Victims Association. I organize seminars, propose places for victims to talk amongst themselves. The activities are diverse. Assisting me in this endeavor is Jennifer. Jennifer is now a college student, studying psychology. With her enrollment in university, she ended up living alone in the same city where I reside, so she started helping with our activities. Jennifer was tormented by guilt over not being able to warn Olivia. But the Lucas family is entirely responsible for that incident. It's not Jennifer's fault. Don't worry about it. I reassured her many times. And over time, although it took a while, she gradually began to move forward, showing me a bright smile. Recently, the existence of the Victims Association has gradually become known, leading to an increase in speaking engagements, magazine features, and television appearances. I've become quite busy, but I never forget about Olivia and William, not even for a moment. I've often thought about what life would be like if they were still alive. But every time I threw myself into my work, I want to be helpful in any way I can to support the many families of crime victims. That, above all, will be the best way to honor their memory. As someone left behind, I've made it my mission to fulfill my duties. From now on, even if things get tough, I intend to keep moving forward. I believe Olivia and William are watching over us from heaven. Is it okay if I ask something?
Sure, what is it?
Why are you so cold to Dad? Just now, he looked really shocked and went off alone.
Do you like Dad?
What? Yes, of course, I do. Isn't that obvious?
I could tell you why I'm cold to him, but it might hurt you. Are you ready for that?
I don't mind getting hurt. Can you tell me why?
All right, I'll say it. Dad's probably having an affair.
What? My son suddenly accused his husband of having an affair. However, there were no signs of trouble in our marriage, and he was serious about his work. I couldn't believe what my son was saying. Yet, he has an IQ of 140. He wouldn't say this without any basis. I decided to listen to my son's detailed story and verify the facts together. After 15 years of marriage, it seems I had been cheated on for 10 years. Moreover, my husband was likely planning a trip with his affair partner. could it be? Since that time, it seems I've been cheated on for 10 years. Now I had to reconsider the relationship with my husband. Looking at my son's face, I noticed a slight change in his expression.
You got hurt after all, didn't you? This is unforgivable. Can I make Dad regret it?
My son seemed to have a plan. I decided to go along with my son's strategy. I am Erica, a 42-year-old office worker, just an ordinary person. I married Sean, a 45-year-old salesman, 15 years ago. He was slightly successful, but not particularly outstanding. We met through a common friend, and our meeting was not dramatic, nor was our marriage born out of a great romance. The only slightly unusual thing was that it was a shotgun wedding. But even that was not particularly rare. We were like the template of an average married couple. However, there was one thing we could brag about, almost wanting to shout it out loud.
That's an amazing score again. Isn't that a perfect A+ in history?
The tests at school aren't so hard.
I'm still impressed. When I was in middle school, I worked hard to get C.
Comparing us is pointless, isn't it?
It was usual for our son to score well on tests. We both were delighted every time our son brought home good grades. Our son, Hart, was 15 years old. With exams becoming more intense, it was supposed to be a challenging time, but we were not worried at all. He was so excellent that we sometimes doubted if he was really our child. He seemed smarter than both of us already. We realized our son was smart when he was 4 years old. At that time, he often clashed with other kids. According to his kindergarten teacher, he would initiate conversations with friends, and before long, they would start getting angry. I asked my son why he was saying things that made his friends angry. You made your friend angry again today. Why do you always say things that make them mad?
But if you gather the paper and tear it, you can use the glue right away, right? I told them that, and they said I was being annoying.
I didn't quite understand what my son was saying, but it seemed he was just giving advice to his friends. However, his friends wanted to do things their own way, which probably led to the arguments. As such clashes with friends continued, and we couldn't quite grasp the situations, my husband and I wondered if our son might have a developmental disorder, so we consulted a hospital. At the hospital, they conducted an IQ test to objectively assess our son's development. My husband and I were surprised by the results.
His IQ is 140.
Is 140 considered high?
Yes, the average is 100, so that's quite high.
But Hart doesn't seem very good at communicating. Sometimes we don't understand what he's saying.
That might be because Hart is only 4 years old and has limited words and expressions. He understands things well but might only be able to line up the important words because he doesn't know how to express them fully. I talked to Hart earlier, and he was using conjunctions like but and so. This means he can think things through and has his own conclusions.
But he often makes his friends angry.
That's a trait often seen in intelligent children. Hart is quick thinking, so he understands outcomes and conclusions faster than other kids. That's probably why he offers advice. But if Hart's thoughts advance faster than his friends, they might not understand him, leading to clashes. It's like with us adults, right? Even if something is correct. If someone talks about a specialized, complex topic for too long, we get frustrated because we don't understand.
I see. So, Hart is a genius, and we're the ones who haven't been able to understand him.
Well, You could think of it that way, but remember, even though his IQ is 140 now, it can change with age and development. So don't focus too much on the number. Some people push their kids too hard thinking they are smart.
Got it. I'll be careful. The doctor warned us not to put too much pressure on our child because of high expectations. Seeing us happy about the IQ of 140, he must have been concerned. But no parent would not be pleased to hear their child is smart. Knowing our son had an IQ of 140 made all his unusual daily behaviors suddenly make sense. When we bought him a book, he would quickly want the next one. We thought it was restlessness, but he just remembered the content quickly and wanted more. Sometimes he would stare at the TV remote for ages, then start pressing various buttons. We thought it was mischief, but he was curious about how the remote worked. I was happy about my son's high IQ, but I was also pleased to understand his farts better. He had an interest in various things and absorbed knowledge rapidly with high concentration. The doctor said IQ could change, but my son remained intelligent. Just imagining his bright future made me happy. However, around this time, a dark future was approaching without my knowledge. After our son took the IQ test, my husband began to put more effort into his work than ever before. He started working late and often went out saying he needed to study on weekends. While it's good to be diligent, I worried he was overdoing it. Working hard is good, but are you okay? You know, many people get sick from overworking, right?
Don't worry, I'm fine. Hart will need more money as he enters elementary school, right? He might want to go to tutoring or attend a private school. Plus, Hart is smart, so I, not being very bright, have to show some effort to maintain my dignity as a parent.
His joke-laden response made me realize he wasn't overexerting himself, which reassured me. As Hart entered elementary school, his vocabulary and expressions grew, and we no longer had trouble understanding his conversations.
Why do we have to get permission from the teacher just to go to the bathroom during class? Is going to the bathroom such a big deal?
If you go without telling, the teacher won't know where the students are.
I see. But then, wouldn't it be better to have a sign on the desk saying toilet? That way, there's no need to interrupt the class for permission, and the teacher can still keep track of where everyone is.
But then, some kids might put up the sign and skip class instead of going to the bathroom.
If they slack off and end up in trouble, it's their own fault, so why not just let them be?
That can't happen. If something goes wrong, it would be the teacher's responsibility.
Enforcing rules and bearing responsibility. Being an adult sure is complicated.
Though he has become better at conversing compared to his kindergarten days, his overly logical and somewhat dry approach remains a flaw. His quick thinking continues to set him apart from other children, a trait that has persisted since kindergarten. However, Hart is aware of his rapid thought processes and seems to be trying to adapt to others. As a method to better relate, he began showing interest in psychology by the 5th grade. He thought that if he understood the other person's psychological condition, it would be easier to match them. This approach is unusually mature for an elementary student, resembling how an adult would strategize to improve workplace relationships. My husband continues to work hard, but his efforts to maintain dignity in front of Hart don't seem to be going very well.
Your job is in sales, right? Do you enjoy it?
Well, It's not always fun since it's work, but being in sales means you are out and about, kind of like the face of the company. It has its rewarding moments.
But being out so much, there must be some who slack off, right?
Well, there are some like that, I guess, but I don't do that.
I'm not saying you're slacking off.
That's right.
Hart tries hard to fit in with those around him. He may have a dry side, but he never looks down on others. However, for some reason, he seems particularly cold towards his father.
Do you think Hart hates me?
I don't think so. He knows you work hard.
But he's not cold to you like he is to me, right?
Well, maybe. They say a father can never beat a mother in parenting.
That's a tough spot to be in.
My husband is facing a classic paternal dilemma. Given Hart's logical nature, trying to change the way he interacts or buying him off would likely be counterproductive and seen through by Hart. It seems the only option is to work harder to impress him and show how great a father he is. Putting my husband's concerns aside, Hart continues to grow. After graduating from elementary school, he moved on to a local middle school. Now in his second year of middle school, it's time to start preparing for exams seriously. But there's no need to rush or worry about Hart. However, now that he's in his early teens, his adolescent phase is a new concern.
Studying all the time can cause stress, right? It's Sunday today. Want to go out and have some fun.
I like studying, so I don't get stressed. Actually, being forced to go somewhere I don't want to is more stressful.
Is that so? Sorry about that, then. Keep up the good work with your studies.
By the way, where were you planning to take me?
Well, how about a museum? It's different from seeing pictures and textbooks. Seeing the real artworks can be a great experience, don't you think?
Have you ever been to a museum?
Not yet, but I thought it might be good for you. So, does that make you want to go?
Did you not hear me say, by the way?
Hart cut off the conversation with his father and left the living room. Left behind, my husband seemed as if he had been heartbroken and wandered out of the house alone. Watching the interaction between Hart and my husband, I felt sorry for the latter, left behind. In the past 3 years, Hart has become even colder towards his father. It's a bit pitiful for my husband. Deciding to help, I approached Hart for a talk. Hart, are you studying? Can we talk?
Sure, what's up?
As I entered Hart's room, he stopped studying to talk. I'm sure if it were my husband, Hart would have asked him to leave so he could study. Why is he so cold towards his father? Given my son's quick perception, I knew he would immediately sense the real question I wanted to ask. Deciding against any roundabout tactics, I chose to ask directly, "Why are you so cold to Dad?" Earlier, he was shocked and left the house alone. My question seemed to pose a complex problem for Hart, leading to a pensive silence in the room, filling me with an odd tension. After a moment, Hart began to speak with a troubled expression.
Do you like Dad?
What? Yes, of course. His unexpected question took me aback. Although I answered honestly, it seemed to trouble Hart even more.
Your words seem genuine.
Of course, they are.
I could tell you why I'm cold to him, but it might hurt you. Are you prepared for that?
What are you talking about? I didn't understand what my son said, so I was confused. It felt like talking to the young Hart. But when he was in kindergarten, he just couldn't express his thoughts well, so he had many things in mind, and understood. Now he still must have comprehended something significant to pose such questions. Therefore, if I ask why, I will get hurt, as my son says. Nonetheless, for the sake of improving the relationship between my son and husband, I needed to hear it. I steeled myself, bracing for what was to come. I don't mind being hurt. Can you tell me why?
Your response seems genuine too. So, I'll tell you. I think Dad might be having an affair.
What? I was stunned by his unexpected revelation. An affair. But our marriage isn't troubled, and he's diligent at work. I found it hard to believe my son's claim. That can't be true, right? What's gotten into you all of a sudden?
I'm still speculating, but Dad often lies, especially about work and the company. So, I thought maybe he's having an affair with someone from work.
When has Dad ever lied?
He lied just before. He said he's never been to a museum, but I think he has. Remember when I was into psychology books in 5th grade? I learned how to spot lies then.
Is that about observing eye movements or voice tone? Can you really detect lies that way?
I use more advanced techniques, like leading in conversation and spotting the immediate reactions people show when they lie. You showed confusion and resolve when I asked you earlier. I draw out and observe such reactions during conversations.
So, you've been spotting Dad's lies since 5th grade.
Right. The first time I thought Dad was lying was when he denied slacking off. It wasn't about slacking off, but something felt off. Over these 3 years, the lies I've pieced together point to an affair. But as I said, the affair is just a hypothesis. Still, I believe Dad is unfaithful, and I can't be close to someone like that.
No matter how smart my son is, I found it hard to believe he could easily detect lies. However, as long as he believes my husband is unfaithful, the problem remains unresolved. I pondered how to mend their relationship.
It'd be good if I could be certain my dad isn't having an affair.
I see. It seemed he could read my thoughts, making his lie detection claim more credible. But how can we find out if he's not having an affair?
I need your help with something I can't do alone.
Okay, what can I do?
I've researched that if someone is having an affair, it might show up in credit card histories.
I see, but we don't get paper statements anymore. Your father switched to electronic statements. I've only checked a bank account, so I only know the total amount charged, not what your father spends on with the card.
That's a common way to avoid statement scrutiny. Let's check the web statements. Are you using a family credit card?
Yes, it is a family card. But is that an issue?
No, it's actually better. It's illegal to check the card history without permission, even for family members. But since it's a family card, the history includes both your and Dad's transactions, right? So, it's inevitable that we'll see Dad's transactions too.
That's a gray area, huh?
Do you know the account ID and password?
It's okay. I keep important passwords noted down, so it should be there. Feeling like a detective, I got a bit excited about the task. While it felt wrong to doubt my husband, I believed he would understand once I explained everything and apologized. More so, he should be grateful if this helps improve his relationship with our son. Together, we accessed the computer to check the credit card statements and found several unbelievable charges. What is this? These charges?
These hotel names clearly suggest they are motels, visited every 1 or 2 weeks. There's always a restaurant payment before each motel visit. He's been dining out before going there.
I was shocked, having firmly believed my husband wasn't unfaithful. But Hart, having suspected the affair, remained calm. Why would he engage in an affair?
There's no real reason for affairs. People who are content at home still have them. It often starts with someone feeling a sudden attraction, calling it a moment of madness. So, pondering why he started it is pointless. Even if there's a reason, it doesn't justify the affair, and we don't need to understand the feelings of someone who cheats.
You're right, but I never noticed any signs of infidelity in him.
Mom, you're watching too much drama and online videos. Do you think signs of infidelity are always obvious, or that you'd stumble upon the affair scene? People who cheat are determined to hide it. It's usually like this, discovering it when you least expect it.
As I grappled with the shock of my husband's affair, Hart methodically continued to check the online statements.
We can only see transactions from up to a year back. I wonder how long this has been going on. The duration of the affair is important, right?
It was about 10 years ago that he started putting more effort into his work. Could it have been since then? I might have been cheated on for 10 years.
You remember well, even though it was 10 years ago.
It was right after Hart took the IQ test. That's why I remember. I acknowledged my husband's affair internally. The sudden confrontation with reality hit me hard. I would have preferred signs of conflict or unfamiliar scents on his clothes. Anything that could have given me a clue. Now I must reassess our relationship. I noticed a slight change in my son's expression, which had been calm.
You're hurt after all, Mom. This can't be forgiven. Should I make Dad regret this?
It seemed Hart had a plan. I decided to go along with it. After uncovering the affair, I continued life as if nothing had happened.
There's a business trip next week.
Business trip? That's rare. When is it?
I'm leaving on Thursday, and the work ends on Friday. But coming back the same night is a hassle, so I'll stay another night and return leisurely on Saturday.
On Thursday morning, my husband left for the business trip. After seeing him off, it was time for me to leave too. I'm heading out too. I've prepared some food and put it in the fridge. You can manage it, right? Just be careful with locking up and handling fire.
Don't worry so much. Since you've even taken time off work, you should relax and enjoy.
Leaving Hart in charge at home, I departed, suitcase rattling behind me. I got on a plane and headed to the resort hotel I had booked. I haven't visited a resort hotel in a long time. It's a short trip, 1 night and 2 days, but I plan to relax at the pool and get over my daily fatigue. I arrived at the hotel. It is much bigger and nicer than the picture. I felt an urge to explore. After settling my luggage in the room, I wandered around, capturing the beautifully detailed architecture with my smartphone. I plan to show the videos I captured to my son upon my return. After enjoying or relaxing in the pool and indulging in delicious meals, I felt content. The next morning, I checked out hotel, but didn't leave the hotel immediately. Instead, I sat in the lobby. After a while, I saw a familiar face with an unfamiliar woman and approached them. What a coincidence meeting you here. Have you visited the famous waterfall? Or is sightseeing next on your agenda?
What? Why are you here?
My husband reacted as expected. I claimed it was a coincidence, but of course, it wasn't. I had targeted this place knowing about my husband's affair. I checked the web statements. You paid a travel agency with your credit card, right? I called them. When reviewing the web statements, Hart noticed the payment to the travel agency. Knowing the company's name, I called them, pretending I needed a brochure because I lost mine. I was nervous about picking up the brochure in person, fearing recognition if my husband had booked with his affair partner. Still, fortunately, the staff didn't remember the faces of their many clients. I easily obtained the brochure, revealing my husband's travel destination, and casually confirmed where he would be staying. Is this the food from the hotel I'm staying at?
No, you're staying at the place in this picture.
Matching the travel dates with his supposed business trip made it easy to pinpoint the location and time, leading me to confront the affair scene. Is this your affair partner?
What are you talking about? I told you it's a business trip. This person is from work.
Even without hard skills, it was obvious he was lying. His attempt to remain calm while panicking was evident. I see. This is how Hart discerned his lies. Oh, she's your colleague, I see. Thank you for always taking care of my husband. Would you mind if I take your business card? The two exchanged a silent, uneasy look before the woman reluctantly handed me her business card.
See, the company name matches where I work. She's a coworker. You understand now, right? It's all a misunderstanding. Just go home.
All right, I get it. She's a coworker. But isn't it inappropriate for coworkers to share a room?
How do you know that?
Struggling to suppress a smile, I showed him the video from my phone, which occasionally captured him with a woman, including entering the same room together. Photos and videos of trips and shared accommodations are evidence of an affair, don't they?
What are you doing? This is a privacy invasion.
It's not covert filming. I was merely capturing my solo trip, and you happened to walk into the frame. If you're going to complain about my travel video, would you do the same to others? Look, that couple is taking photos. We might be in their shot. Go on, tell them to stop filming us. Unable to do such a thing, my husband just glared at me in frustration. That was all he could muster. This was all part of the strategy Hart conceived. Relying solely on the credit card history wouldn't suffice as proof of the affair. So Hart and I brainstormed to gather solid evidence. However, every strategy I proposed was systematically rejected by my son. What about planting a bug in his bag?
That's illegal. Besides, the battery would die, right?
What about hiring a private investigator?
That costs a fortune, you know, around $200 per hour. Even if they only followed for 18 hours a day excluding sleep, that's $3,600 a day, and over $10,000 for 3 days, not counting travel and accommodation. It's not realistic.
So what then?
Mom, enough with the drama and online video ideas. Let's think of something more practical.
Ultimately, Hart devised the plan of calling the travel agency and using travel footage to capture the affair scene.
Only Mom could carry out the plan. It would be weird for me to call the travel agency for brochures, and I can stay at the hotel alone. So, this is teamwork. I plan, and Mom executes.
I felt embarrassed for not contributing much, but my son, with his IQ of 140 and knowledge of psychology, had everything under control. From planning to taking care of my mental state. You two are staying another night, right? Enjoy your stay. We'll talk about the affair and the divorce when you get back. I ended my trip on a high note after refreshing at the hotel and obtaining evidence of my husband's infidelity. Afterwards, we got divorced. Naturally, we divorced smoothly due to the evidence. I gained custody of Hart, and my ex-husband had to pay alimony and child support. However, letting my ex-husband and his affair partner off easily wouldn't complete my revenge. Hart had prepared another move post-trip.
As I predicted, the affair partner was a co-worker, right? So, we'll stir things up a bit by informing their company about the affair.
Got it. So we contact their company to report the affair, hoping for some action against them.
Affairs are private matters. The company can take action. Plus, unnecessarily spreading the word about the affair could lead to defamation charges against us. Forget the drama and internet videos, okay?
Well, sorry, but what do we do then?
Did you get the affair partner's business card?
Yes, I did.
You didn't talk to the affair partner or ask Dad about her, right?
Nope. I followed Hart's instructions.
So, we only know about the affair partner from the business card.
Exactly.
We're supposed to send a certified mail for the affair damages, right? Normally, it has to be sent to the home address. But since we only know her name and workplace, it seems we can send it to her office.
I see. So if the office receives the mail for affair damages, the affair talk spreads, making it awkward for them at work.
Not quite. Others can't open certified mail, so nobody will know it's about the affair. But rumors of the affair might already be circulating in their office. When mysterious certified mail is delivered to the company and Dad gets divorced, others will likely start gossiping more.
The plan unfolded just as Hart envisioned. The affair rumors spread at their workplace, forcing both to resign. Yet, Hart missed one detail. The affair partner was also married. Her affair came to light because of our damages claim, leading her husband to file for divorce and seek compensation from both. The lives of my ex-husband and his affair partner crumbled, and they eventually parted ways amid the chaos. Thus, my revenge for 10 years of betrayal was complete. After settling the matter with my ex-husband and reflecting on everything, I realized something. I watched my son devise the plan, but it wasn't that he knew everything from the start. He researched what he didn't know and applied what he learned. I learned from my son that being smart isn't just about having a lot of knowledge. I worried the divorce would affect him, but it seemed unnecessary.
I've been bothered by Dad's actions since elementary school. Now that it's resolved, I can focus on studying.
Surprisingly, Hart still has much potential for growth. He also became interested in law.
Lawyers like wordplay and interesting, especially when making people who do wrong reflect on their actions.
He noted, aspiring for a career in legal work. That sounds expensive. I'm determined to work hard for my son's future.
Lucky. I'll be free from child support. Time for divorce.
As I was preparing for the funeral, I couldn't hide my surprise at the words suddenly uttered by my husband, John. I thought he was selfish, but I never expected it to be this bad.
There's a woman I want to marry, you know. But she hates kids, so.
So what?
Hey, If Kevin stays alive, they just keep taking money for child support and medical bills, right? Wow, what a relief.
How awful. I felt my internal temperature drop sharply. To think such a guy was Kevin's father. My mind sharpens, and simultaneously my stomach churns. I agree to the divorce.
Right. Then I'll take this house, so get out quickly.
Can you wait until after the funeral, at least?
Guess I have no choice.
Saying that, John went out somewhere. And on the day of the funeral, I read out Kevin's will. John turned pale, and the relatives glared at him with faces like demons. Well, it's time to strike back. My name is Michelle Eddington. I'm a 42-year-old homemaker. I used to work at a company doing translation work, but now I've switched jobs and take freelance translation gigs. My husband John is 45, 3 years older than me. I married him when I was 29. He was in charge of dealings with our company's clients. Our son Kevin was born the following year, but John is a very selfish man and never really participated in child care. Kevin was very frail, constantly in and out of hospitals from the moment he was born. I often felt sorry, wondering if I could have given birth to a healthier child. But Kevin diligently underwent treatment and managed to hang on for 12 years. His condition worsened around his 12th birthday, during his first rainy season. His cough wouldn't stop, he couldn't eat, and his fever wouldn't go down. I hurriedly admitted him to the hospital, but despite the drip, his symptoms didn't improve much.
Mom, I'm sorry for being admitted again.
You don't need to apologize for that. You'll get better, right?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Kevin said weakly, with a smile. My eyes welled up at that smile, but I couldn't cry in front of Kevin. I desperately held back my tears. While Kevin finally slept a little, I called John. But no matter how many times I tried, the call wouldn't connect. Was he out on business? I stopped calling and switched to texting. It wasn't until the next morning that I got a reply from John. Seeing the content, I immediately called him. John picked up the phone, on the first try this time.
What's up, calling so early?
Don't WhatsApp me. Why aren't you here? Kevin is fighting for his life, you know.
Well, even if I go, it's not like his illness is gonna magically disappear, right? Besides, we're gonna rack up more hospital bills, aren't we? Beds aren't free, and tell the doctor to get him discharged as soon as possible.
What? How can you say that?
Oh no, can't hear you. Anyway, I'm off to work.
Hey, wait a minute. John hung up without even listening to my plea. Sure, John had always been indifferent towards Kevin, but he had never said anything this awful before. I clenched my smartphone tightly, trembling with anger. Even as the rainy season ended and summer began, Kevin's condition didn't improve. The doctor told us that it was uncertain if Kevin would make it through this winter, so I saved my work and tried to stay by Kevin's side as much as possible.
Mom, you've been staying with me from morning till evening lately. But is your job okay?
It's fine. I'm working from home properly, so don't worry.
If you say so.
Kevin seemed unconvinced, wearing a troubled expression and speaking in a voice that hinted he wasn't entirely satisfied. Knowing Kevin's gentle nature, he was probably worried that I had lost my job or that I was inconvenienced because of him. After that conversation, to avoid causing Kevin any more stress, I started bringing my laptop and working right in front of him. Kevin loved books and spent a lot of time reading during the day. He also enjoyed studying and would participate in the hospital classes when he was feeling well. I had wanted to let Kevin do everything he wanted. However, John seemed very dissatisfied with me in that regard, not only failing to visit Kevin, but also constantly complaining at home.
Hey, why hasn't he been discharged yet? He's got a private room, right? It's such a waste of money for the bed and everything.
How can you say that when our son is fighting so hard? Why don't you visit him at least once?
I'm busy, okay. You're enough for the visits.
John consistently refused to visit with such an attitude. Even though he was Kevin's father, Kevin must have felt lonely. I thought so, but I knew there was no point in forcing him to go reluctantly, so I couldn't push it further. By this time, John often came home in the early morning after drinking, and he always smelled of alcohol when we met. He said it was a business dinner, but seeing lipstick stains on his shirt from the laundry and receipts from hotels used for breaks in his suit, it seems like he's cheating. He can't make time for Kevin, but he has time for some other woman. Although my affection for John had run out, divorcing him would only sadden Kevin. That's what I've been enduring. Amidst this, Kevin's condition worsened. I get called in by the attending physician and heard something shocking.
I'm sorry, but he has about a month left.
What, doctor, can't you do something?
Beyond this.
As I collapsed in tears, the attending physician assured me, we'll do our utmost until the end. And for about 2 weeks, we continued treatment in consultation with the attending physician, but as expected, Kevin's condition continued to deteriorate.
I'm almost, huh?
What are you talking about? There's still so much you want to do, right? Saying that while encouraging him, I shed tears where Kevin couldn't see. And finally, when the attending doctor told me that treatment was no longer meaningful, I decided to discharge Kevin to spend his final moments at home.
I get to go home.
That's right. The doctor said it's okay for a few days to change the mood.
Yay.
Even though Kevin weakly returned with childlike words, I desperately held back my tears. I informed John about it, but he just said, "Oh, really?" and casually went out somewhere. This guy is hopeless. I completely gave up on John. The discharge is scheduled for tomorrow evening, so I rushed to prepare the house and complete the discharge procedures. And finally, as I was packing Kevin's belongings, Kevin spoke up.
Hey, Mom, do you like Dad?
At the sudden question, I stopped in surprise. Kevin, without paying attention to my reaction, continued speaking.
Dad isn't interested in me or in you, Mom. So, if you don't like Dad, I want you to divorce him and live as you should, Mom.
Kevin must have realized that things weren't going well with John. But as a parent, I couldn't let my child worry like that and face his end. Thinking quickly, I put on a smile and replied, "What are you talking about? I like your dad. Your dad cares about you and me. He's just busy and can't come to see us often, that's all. So don't worry, okay?"
But, yeah, you're right.
Kevin didn't seem entirely convinced, but he stopped pursuing it further. Beside Kevin, who fell asleep soon after, I let out a sigh of relief. And then, 2 days later, Kevin passed away peacefully at home. Until the end, John never showed his face, and I kept holding Kevin's hand, staying by his side until the very end. Kevin, Kevin. As Kevin's body grew cold, I clung to him, crying out loud as I recalled everything from the time he was in my womb until now. The nurse, who had looked after us since childhood, came along with the attending physician. They mourned with me and then explained the subsequent procedures and arrangements. Then one of them took out a letter from a bag and handed it to me.
"This is from Kevin. He said to give it to you if something happened to him."
From Kevin. I took the letter and bowed deeply to the attending physician and the nurse. I couldn't thank them enough for their kindness in supporting both me, who had been alone without John's help, and Kevin, who suffered from illness. After they left, I opened a letter beside Kevin. The contents made me gasp in astonishment. What is this? Along with expressions of gratitude to me, Kevin's letter contained something shocking. I read it, and it made my blood boil. Even while the funeral director was there for arrangements, my mind was consumed with thoughts of the letter I had just read. Still, decisions needed to be made, and I proceeded to arrange a small yet intimate funeral for Kevin, ensuring it would be homely. Then, the day before the funeral, John finally showed up, still reeking of alcohol as always. I no longer had the strength to confront him. As he nonchalantly grabbed another drink from the fridge, he remarked, "You look older. Tomorrow is Kevin's funeral. Where were you?"
Just working, as I've been saying. Always complaining.
Why did I ever marry this guy? No, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have met Kevin. My mind was a mess. Kevin's not in this world anymore.
Oh, I forgot about that.
His attitude, like he lost some distant relative or something, just got my blood boiling. However, there's no point in arguing with someone like him. Thinking that, I decided to confirm the arrangements for tomorrow's funeral.
Lucky. No more child support. Let's get divorced.
While preparing for the funeral, I couldn't hide my surprise at the sudden words from John. I always knew he was selfish, but I never expected this.
I found a woman I want to marry, but she hates kids, so.
So what?
With Kevin gone, I won't have to pay child support and medical bills anymore, right? Well, that's great.
How awful. I felt my temperature drop sharply within me. To think this guy was Kevin's father. My mind cleared, but my anger boiled over. I agreed to divorce.
Right. Then I'll take this house, so get out quickly.
At least wait until after the funeral.
Can't be helped.
Saying so, John went somewhere. And on the day of the funeral, I read Kevin's will. John turned pale, and I glared at him fiercely while he looked helpless. Now it's time to strike back. The will I read exposed John's infidelity. Until the funeral started and I began reading the will, John pretended to be a grieving father who lost his beloved son, wailing inconsolably.
So, why would you have such a letter? No, that's not it. It's a lie. It's Kevin's praying, right? Michelle, I've been busy with work and couldn't come to see you often. I felt sorry about that. But there was no need for this.
John was trying to deceive even at this point, and it was quite pitiful. I wordlessly took out the envelope from my bag and thrust the photo in front of John.
What the? Are you taking secret photos?
Is there anything to worry about being secretly photographed? Like if your relationship with the person you're seen within this photo got exposed.
Oh, no.
With John stuttering and turning pale, I smiled and asked the relatives to pass around a few photos. Words of disgust leaked out from various places, along with small screams.
Despicable.
Not even visiting his sickly son and fooling around with this woman.
The stares at John became even harsher, and he slumped down where he stood. I handed him the divorce papers. With a sudden lift of his head, John looked at me. And then he clung to me with a voice that seemed about to burst into tears.
Because you never took care of me. It was just a fling. Please forgive me. I don't want a divorce.
Not taking care of you. You're not a child anymore. And didn't I ask you several times to take care of me together? It was you who kept using work as an excuse to avoid it.
But taking care of someone is dirty.
The moment John said that, he vanished from in front of me, and I realized he was crawling on the floor. Next to him was a figure of my father-in-law, taking deep breaths through his shoulders.
What do you mean by calling nursing your own son dirty? Cut the crap already.
A parent who doesn't take care of his child isn't a parent at all. It's the lowest of the low.
Ronnie and Jillian, my in-laws, had been doting on Kevin since he was born. They celebrated every discharge with meals out, bought Kevin things he liked, and, of course, never missed visiting him in the hospital. They probably never imagined their own son could be so heartless, especially since he had been making excuses about being too busy with work. With tears in their eyes, my in-laws stared fiercely at John without bothering to wipe their wet faces. It must have been the first time John had been hit. He held his cheek in surprise, looking stunned.
Michelle, I'm so sorry.
If I had known he is a man who would hurt his own son, I would have divorced him immediately. I'm truly sorry.
As my in-laws began to apologize to me, I hurriedly stopped them. My in-laws had done nothing wrong. Kevin loved my in-laws dearly, and the reason I didn't divorce John was because of them. Ronnie, Jillian, you two are not at fault at all. Look, even in Kevin's letter, he wrote thank you to both of you, Grandma and Grandpa. Stay well. Both Kevin and I love you guys.
Michelle, thank you. I'm sorry, Kevin. Oh my.
Jillian hugged me tightly and started sobbing. Ronnie, with his head down, was shedding tears. on the other side of my in-laws. John seemed to finally come to his senses. Suddenly getting up, he pointed at me and shouted,
"What the hell? Why are you guys apologizing to this woman? She's just an old hag. She's nothing but a failure of a wife who can't even handle her husband."
John, hey you.
Yikes.
I stepped in front of John, stopping Ronnie from lunging at him again. Despite my smiling face, John, trembling, tried to maintain dominance by glaring at me.
"What's up? You got a problem?"
Not really. This is reality. There's no one here on your side. Also, make sure you return the money properly. You've borrowed money from various people, haven't you?
Why are you bringing that up?
My words made the relatives who had lent money to John uneasy. After reading Kevin's letter, I had been contacting relatives. It was because the actions John had taken, as heard from Kevin, were quite costly. The woman John was involved with was in the entertainment industry, loving flashy things like buying branded goods and traveling abroad. Because of this, John had been footing all the bills, but his salary alone couldn't possibly cover it all. Realizing this, along with informing them about Kevin, I confirmed if anyone had lent money to John. It turned out that not only John's relatives but also my own had lent money under the pretext of Kevin's medical expenses. At that time, he had vaguely promised to express gratitude and return the money, but in the current situation, the relatives who had lent money seemed to realize that John had been using the money not for Kevin's sake, but for his affair partner.
"Don't mess with me. I lent it to you thinking it was for Kevin. Return the $10,000 right now."
"Same here. Return the $20,000.
With these words as a starting point, demands to return borrowed amounts came from various directions. John, pale-faced, looked around at those voices. Then he turned to me with a smirk.
"Michelle, we're married, right? You'll help me out, won't you?"
Ha, what are you talking about? You don't care for Kevin. You don't even cover his medical expenses, let alone living expenses. You've borrowed from everywhere and used it for your own selfish desires. Unbelievable. There's no way I'll help you.
"Don't say that."
With a pathetic voice, John slumped down again. It seemed he had no energy left to argue anymore. Looking down at John like that, I called out towards the entrance to deliver the final blow. "Sophia, please come in."
"Sophia, what are you doing here?"
John, with an expression that seemed like he was about to collapse any moment, finally looked towards the entrance. A woman called Sophia approached me tentatively, her demeanor filled with fear. With minimal makeup, she looked far more modest than in the photos. "I called for you. On Kevin's final day, I was hoping you could persuade the girl who was with him to attend his funeral."
Well, I'm sorry for what happened.
"It's okay, don't bother with superficial words." Upon hearing my response, Sophia immediately shut her mouth tight. Her complexion, much like John's, was as pale as a sheet. I handed her a document as she reached me. "I called you here today to sign this document. Please read it carefully and sign it."
$50,000. I can't afford this.
It's not for you to decide whether you can afford it or not." As I said that, Sophia looked at me with pleading eyes. Although irritated by her gesture, I had no intention of confronting her about it at the moment. Then, trembling, John stood between Sophia and me. "What?"
I'm at fault here. So, can't you forgive Sophia? It's just too pitiful to dimp in such a huge amount like $50,000.
"Why? I'm just asking for compensation for your affair." John raised an eyebrow at my words and let out a heavy sigh, while internally screaming that I wanted to be the one making that gesture. I waited for John's next words.
So, Sophia is weak, unlike you. How do you expect her to earn $50,000 selling her body? You're such a despicable person.
John,
reveling in Sophia's adoration as she clung to his back, seemed enchanted. I wasn't the only one observing the two of them mockingly. Even if I keep quiet, he'll still be pounced on by relatives. But hey, let's throw another log on the fire here. Your son is hospitalized, right?
Son.
Sophia's shoulders twitched in surprise. I continued without pause. Your son is the same age as Kevin. Seems like he's been hospitalized for quite a while. Your ex-husband took custody, right? It's tough, isn't it? Hospital bills, medical expenses, not to mention the cost of the bed. Besides child support, they're probably demanding quite a sum, aren't they?
why bring that up?
Sophia stared at me as if she were seeing a ghost. John, still frozen in surprise at Sophia's words, remained motionless. I took out documents from my bag and handed them to John. After trembling violently, John pushed away Sophia, who was clinging to him from behind.
Eek.
What's the meaning of this? Divorced. With a kid. I didn't sign up for this. Wasn't it about needing money for your family living far away?
I didn't lie. My son is also family.
Was I just dating an old flame? What happened to true love? Was it my money you were after?
Weren't you after my body too?
Saying so, Sophia took off her shoes and hurled them at John. John, furious, lunged at Sophia. The security guard, summoned by someone, intervened as the two started grappling like children. Approaching the disheveled pair with a smile, I spoke up. John, make sure to sign the divorce papers and pay the alimony. Sophia, you won't get a single penny less for your alimony. Also, from your ex-husband. Infidelity is no longer just a mere flaw. It's a sickness. It seems like you're seeing a few people, but if you have that much spare time, we'll enforce the alimony, the overdue child support, and the medical expenses.
My gosh.
John remained silent, hanging his head, while Sophia was led away by the security guard, shoulders slumped. I apologized to each of the relatives for the commotion, and they all kindly comforted me, tears streaming down my face. Later on, the divorce with John was finalized. We reached an agreement on the alimony amount as per the claim. This incident greatly angered both sets of parents-in-law. Furthermore, the relatives were furious about being deceived, leading to a complete fallout. It seems that the amount he embezzled was demanded back all at once, and it seems he borrowed from some shady sources. For repayment, he reportedly worked multiple jobs every day, but the repayment amount was too high, leaving him with no living expenses. Finally, unable to pay off the interest that had swollen, he was taken away by some scary guys last month. The parents-in-law don't seem to intend to file a missing person report, hoping only that he is safe, but they secretly wish he would suffer immensely, if possible. As for Sophia, she was caught cheating on every man she dated and having a child, leading to the termination of all financial support. Though she's 30 years old, being considered old for the hostess industry, she couldn't attract customers, so in the end, she relied on her parents and transferred all the alimony at once. However, afterward, she was sent to a farm on some island, where she is forced to work, with all her wages going toward repaying her parents. As for me, I moved with Kevin's portrait. I purchased a house near the sea that Kevin always wanted, and I live alone with a cat he wanted. Sometimes the parents-in-law come to visit, and reminiscing about Kevin is one of the pleasures. After that, I received another letter from Kevin addressed to me separately. In it, along with many expressions of gratitude, there was an apology for leaving for heaven ahead of me, and the content that he wanted to be my child again even in the next life was written in slightly shaky handwriting. And at the end, it was concluded with, "Mom, you just keep being you, stay lively, and live long," which made me determined to live my life true to myself for Kevin's sake. Overcoming the sadness of not being able to see the growth of my beloved child, I will continue to live each day to the fullest.
John, what are you doing here? In the middle of the night, feeling that I heard a noise from upstairs, I went up the stairs and bumped into my husband coming out of our daughter's room. He seemed surprised to see me.
Oh, I heard the noise too and went into Emily's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare. So I was comforting her.
Would a daughter who usually keeps her distance from her father at her age really be comforted by him just because of a nightmare? It was a somewhat unconvincing explanation. After that, my husband's visits to our daughter's room at night became more frequent. Whenever I asked what he was doing, he invariably said that Emily couldn't sleep and wanted him to stay with her. In the morning, my daughter started to yawn constantly and became increasingly groggy due to lack of sleep. And I noticed she seemed to have put on weight around her waist. When I confronted my husband severely, Emily spoke up.
I've been putting up with it, but I can't take it anymore. Listen to this.
When did you get your hands on such a thing? You ain't great.
With a trump card she played, my husband was cornered and had no choice but to admit his wrongdoing. My name is Lena. I married my college senior, John, and we had a daughter, Emily. John adored our only child, Emily, more than anything and often took good care of her since she was young. Emily also grew fond of her father and would often go out to the park or other places with John, even when I wasn't around. When I was busy at work, especially during peak seasons, John would willingly take Emily out to amusement parks or other fun places. No matter how busy he was, John always made sure to attend school events like Emily's sports day or parents' day. In a world where many men prioritize work over taking care of their children, I am constantly grateful that I married a man like John, who could be called a true hands-on dad. However, as Emily reached her upper elementary years, she began avoiding John, possibly due to her sensitive age.
Hey Emily, how about we go out somewhere together for a change? We could go shopping. I'll buy you something you like.
On a holiday, while Emily was watching TV in the living room, John suggested this.
I'm fine. There's nothing I particularly want right now.
Emily, who has become somewhat mature for her age, recently started feeling embarrassed about going out with her father. Even today, when invited by John, she seemed reluctant and turned down the invitation.
I'm going out of my way to ask you. And this is the attitude I get.
John, perhaps upset by Emily's response, suddenly scolded her. John probably wanted to get along well with Emily, but he often missed the mark, not quite understanding how to handle a growing girl. And he would end up getting angry when things didn't go well. Hey, don't be so angry. I hurriedly intervened to calm down the heated John. The arguments between John and Emily were not just on this day. When John spoke to her, Emily often responded with a curt attitude. John was shocked by the change in Emily, who had been so affectionate before, but I didn't think much of it, seeing it as a sign of her growing up.
She wasn't like this before.
Well, she's getting closer to being an adult. Don't get so worked up about it, okay? I tried to calm down my husband, who was grumbling in dissatisfaction, without paying much attention to it. But I never thought that my response at the time would be something I'd regret later. If I had paid closer attention to the two of them here, maybe the later incident wouldn't have happened. With the relationship between father and daughter remaining awkward, Emily entered the 6th grade. She grew taller and completely looked like a young lady. Though she had many friends and a cheerful personality, lately she seemed a bit out of sorts. When I asked if something was bothering her, Emily just shook her head, indicating nothing was wrong. Even after contacting the school about Emily's condition, it appeared there were no significant troubles. One night, while I was sleeping in our bedroom, I suddenly noticed John stirring and then getting up. He stood up and left the bedroom. I wonder if he went to get some water. Glancing at the clock on the bedside table, it was midnight. Feeling wide awake, I tossed and turned, unable to fall back asleep. Even after a while, John had not returned to the bedroom. Puzzled but eventually overtaken by sleepiness, I fell asleep again. Were you awake last night? In the morning, while preparing breakfast, I asked John about last night.
Well, I couldn't fall asleep. So I was in the living room.
If you're waking up so often at night, maybe you should see a doctor. Even when I suggested this, he said there was no need because it wasn't bothering him much. Then one day, I noticed John getting out of bed and going somewhere again. At the same time, feeling thirsty myself, I got up from bed, following my husband. Heading to the living room, I found it pitch dark and empty. Where's John? Thinking he might be in the bathroom, I didn't worry much and just filled a glass with tap water to drink. As I was about to head back to the bedroom, I suddenly thought I heard a noise from upstairs. Could Emily be awake? With that thought, I went up the stairs. Then I bumped into John coming out of Emily's room. John, what are you doing here?
Lena, you're awake.
John seemed surprised to see me. Is something wrong with Emily? I came up because I heard a noise.
Oh yeah. I noticed the noise too and went into Emily's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare. So I was comforting her.
You've been on bad terms with Emily for a while. Did you make up?
Even if she acts distant, kids love their parents. She's calmed down and is sleeping now. So let's go back downstairs.
Could Emily, who had been avoiding her father so much, really be comforted by him just because of a nightmare? It was an unsatisfying explanation, but urged by John to go back to sleep, we went down the stairs and returned to our bedroom. After that, my husband John started leaving our bedroom at night more often to visit Emily's room, When I asked what he was doing, he always said Emily couldn't sleep and wanted him to be with her. I also asked Emily if that was true, and she said she was the one who asked her dad to come. Emily is a girl and sleeping with her dad all the time. Plus, wouldn't it affect your work if you're up all night, John?
No, I'm fine even if I lose some sleep if it's for my sweet daughter. Right, Emily?
John answered nonchalantly and looked to Emily for agreement.
Yeah.
However, Emily's face, even as she agreed with John's words, looked clearly troubled. I stopped prying further, thinking if both were okay with it, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Then, in the mornings thereafter, Emily started yawning incessantly, showing signs of sleep deprivation, and often seemed absent-minded. Even her grades, which used to be top-notch, began to decline, causing concern not just for me but also for her teacher. "Hey Emily, is something bothering you? You seem pretty distracted lately," I asked, worried about her health, but Emily just laughed it off, saying, "It's nothing, Mom, you're overthinking it." Then, 6 months later, I noticed something when I went to pick up Emily from her tutoring classes. Children were coming out of the entrance as classes ended. And among them, I spotted Emily. Viewing her from the car, I realized she looked fuller overall, something I hadn't noticed because we were always together.
I'm exhausted. Today was test day, so it was tough.
Emily said as she got into the car. "You worked hard. You must be hungry. I'll get dinner ready as soon as we get home."
Yay. I love Mom's cooking.
Hey, you say the nicest things. Speaking of which, Emily, have you noticed any changes in your figure recently? You seem a bit fuller. At my words, Emily's expression froze for a moment.
Yeah, I've gained weight recently, and my skirts and shirts are tight. I've also not been feeling well.
Really? I'm sorry, I hadn't noticed at all. It might be something serious. Should we go to the doctor tomorrow? I had noticed she looked a bit absent-minded and sleep-deprived, but it must be serious if it's affecting her body. As I spoke anxiously, Emily's face suddenly brightened, and she forced a smile.
Just kidding, it's a lie. I just wanted to make you worry a bit. Maybe I'm just tired. It's really nothing. Forget about it.
My daughter's attempt to dismiss her previous statements only made me more anxious. Could it be? Emily's clearly unnatural behavior made me feel like I understood the cause of the unease that had been building up. When we arrived home, I found John just as he was angrily ending a phone call.
Stop making ridiculous accusations.
He hung up the phone with a look of indignation. Who were you on the phone with? You seemed pretty upset.
It's nothing, just a wrong number. Don't worry about it.
John brushed it off with a laugh and said he was going out for his usual walk before leaving the house. Emily's condition, John's behavior. Feeling that something was amiss, I checked the phone John had been using to talk to someone. This number is. Searching through the call log, I was puzzled to see the displayed phone number. It was Emily's school number. Why would John show such anger? What were they talking about? And why lie about it being a wrong number? With a growing sense of unease, I felt I had to check and call the school. Identifying myself as Emily's mother, I inquired if something had happened concerning her. It turned out that John had been talking to the school nurse just before. The nurse answered the phone and explained. Hearing this, I was speechless with shock.
During a recent physical exam, we discovered that Emily had developed shingles all over her body. We suspect it's due to stress, and I had just discussed this with her father, but he abruptly hung up, insisting that his daughter was fine.
The nurse's tone was quite urgent. Despite this, why did John adamantly deny it? His unusual behavior made me suspect that the changes in Emily's health might be connected to him. I knew I had to uncover the truth immediately. Thinking this, I made a request to the school nurse. She agreed to help, considering it was for Emily's sake.
I'm home.
We need to talk.
What's with that serious face?
John, oblivious to my grave demeanor, just chuckled. The person you were talking to earlier was the school nurse, right? Why did you lie about it being a wrong number? John looked startled, probably not expecting me to call the school back.
Well, you see, you worry too much. I heard the story, and it wasn't anything serious, so I didn't bother telling you.
Nothing serious? How can you be so sure?
Emily is clearly healthy. Saying she's sick is just a baseless accusation.
John became defensive and argued back at my words. Baseless? Emily is showing signs of stress on her body. Don't you have any idea why her health might be changing?
That's a baseless accusation. I don't know anything. Emily isn't saying anything either.
Not saying anything? Who's been threatening her to keep quiet? I talked to Emily about everything while you were out for a walk. Pretending not to know won't help anymore. After hearing about Emily's condition from the school nurse, I immediately talked to Emily. At first, Emily was tight-lipped, but after I gently persuaded her, she tearfully confessed. Emily had been coerced by John to sleep in the same bed with him at night. Although it might be different when she was younger, Emily is now in the 6th grade. For a girl her age, it's naturally uncomfortable to be forced to sleep with a man, even if he is her father. Initially, Emily resisted. But John shouted that it was bad parenting on my part if a daughter wouldn't listen to her father, and he threatened to divorce me and kick me out of the house if Emily didn't obey. Not wanting me to be driven out, Emily reluctantly complied with John's demands. However, just the thought of sleeping next to John made it hard for her to breathe, resulting in stress-induced shingles all over her body. The symptoms of shingles include pain throughout the body, making it difficult for her to sleep, and when she did manage to fall asleep, she'd often wake up to dreams of her father yelling at her. The reason Emily looked drowsy and distracted all the time was that she couldn't get proper sleep. Emily revealed that to alleviate her stress, she had been getting up at night and secretly eating food from the refrigerator. That's probably why her body shape changed so suddenly.
Did you spill everything? I told you not to tell anyone.
While yelling, John tried to grab Emily. I quickly jumped in front of Emily to protect her. I won't let you touch her. Stop hurting her anymore.
Hurting? So exaggerated, huh? I didn't anything sketchy. Just sleeping together represents only a physical affection. What's the issue with a father sleeping with his daughter?
Emily clearly didn't like it. She's showing physical signs of stress, and you still force her. To think that someone who ignores his daughter's feelings could be a father is laughable. I can't continue with you anymore. Overwhelmed by his selfishness, I lashed out in anger, and John began to panic.
Oh no, please forgive me.
He seemed to realize the gravity of the situation now, but it was too late. I could never forgive John for hurting our daughter. I won't forgive you. The only thing you can do is disappear from Emily and my life.
No, it's not like that. I just wanted Emily to be as affectionate with me as she used to be. Don't abandon me.
John collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Emily and I looked down on his pitiful figure with cold eyes. After hearing more about it, John said he felt inferior every time he saw other fathers at school events bonding well with their children, wondering why his daughter was rejecting him.
She used to be such a sweet, obedient girl, always following me around, calling me dad. And then she suddenly became cold, which made me feel lonely.
focusing only on yourself and ignoring your child's feelings. Are you even a father? A girl distancing herself from her father is a sign of growth. It's natural to feel lonely, but you're supposed to endure it and keep watching over her. John started believing that Emily's rejection of him was because of her mother's poor upbringing, justified himself as wanting to correct the wrong education, and pressured her to sleep together at night. He probably thought spending the night together would return them to the close father-daughter relationship they used to have. Initially, John was facing his own stresses at work, being held accountable for problems by his boss, and dealing with young subordinates who wouldn't follow instructions. He lamented that other employees were bad-mouthing him behind his back, and confessed he sought solace in his interactions with Emily. I was utterly appalled by his selfish reasoning. I understand you were stressed from work, but to alleviate that stress by pushing our daughter to the point of making her sick, that's unforgivable.
It's just a form of parent-child bonding. Admittedly, it might have been a little embarrassing, but that's exaggerated to be called it as a stress.
Still saying that? Fine, let's have a third party explain what Emily's condition really is. Saying this, I picked up my smartphone and made a call. Shortly after, the doorbell rang. I welcomed that folks in and led them to the living room.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Just waltzing into someone's house like that?
The person I had called was the school nurse, who had been waiting nearby to explain Emily's condition. As planned, the nurse arrived accompanied by staff from Child Protective Services.
Emily is clearly showing signs of stress, a cry for help.
The nurse stated firmly to John.
That's an exaggeration. Anyone can get shingles. It's just a sign of being a little rundown.
Despite the nurse's explanation about Emily's shingles, John consistently claimed, "It's not my fault." Before such a stubborn John, Emily stepped forward with a determined look, having decided something while watching the situation unfold.
Being threatened to drive Mom out. I've endured it until now, but I can't take it anymore. Listen to this.
Emily pulled out her smartphone and started operating it. Then John's voice began to play from the smartphone. Just like she said, that was an audio recording of threatening, telling her he would get me out of the house unless she slept with him.
What? How did you get that? Trying to frame me, you ingrate.
John, not expecting Emily to have recorded the conversation, started to panic and berate her. But no matter how much he denied it, there was no escaping the truth now. After listening to the recorded audio, the Child Protective Services staff asserted that the cause of Emily's ill health was clearly her father. Being told by a third party that he was the cause, John was shocked into silence. You were using Emily as an outlet for stress. From now on, I won't forgive that kind of thing. No way? As I declared that, John slumped dejectedly. That night, Emily was temporarily taken into the care of Child Protective Services. Leaving Emily with the school nurse and the CPS staff, I was left alone in the house with John. I reiterated my demand for divorce to John.
Hey, reconsider this whole divorce thing, will ya? I admit I may have pushed her despite her reluctance, and I'm reflecting on it. So, I'm gonna turn over a new leaf from now on.
No matter how much you resist, the divorce is final. Do you think Emily wants to live with you after all this? Neither Emily nor I can continue with you.
No, I refuse. I will never allow divorce.
Despite my explanations, John refused to accept the divorce until the very end. This conversation is just going to stay at an impasse if we continue like this. Realizing we were getting nowhere, I declared that we would proceed with the divorce through a lawyer. As I packed my things, John tried to stop me, but I brushed him off and left the house. I couldn't bear sharing the same air with him any longer. I decided to stay at a hotel for the night and planned to pick up Emily from the child services the next morning. John called many times after that, but I continued to ignore his calls. There was no point in talking to someone so unreasonable. I blocked John's number. Eventually, he kept resisting the divorce, and we had to hire a lawyer to proceed with the negotiations. With this school nurse's testimony and the recognition of John's repeated harassment of Emily, the divorce was finally granted. Of course, I won custody of Emily. John stubbornly insisted on visitation rights, but when I threatened to demand a substantial amount of alimony, he reluctantly gave up. I heard through the grapevine that John remained in the house we left, but the shock of the divorce seemed to drain his will to work, leading to his dismissal from the company after continued absenteeism. He reportedly lived a disordered life until he could no longer pay for utilities, resulting in a cutoff of services, and eventually, he had to sleep in public parks out of necessity. While I pity John's situation, considering what he did to Emily, I cannot forgive him even now after the divorce. I will likely never see John again. As a single mother, life with Emily began anew. Freed from John, Emily slowly regained her former cheerfulness. Now she's immersed in French pop culture with her friends, even aspiring to study in France, focusing on learning the language, and has finally returned to her bright self, which brings me great relief. Though challenges lie ahead, I'm committed to raising my precious daughter and protecting her smile. That's the vow I made to myself.
Mike, congratulations on getting accepted, but I'm sorry, we can't afford the tuition.
I couldn't believe my husband's words and stood up forcefully from my chair. Hold on a second. That's crazy. Why can't we afford the tuition? Mike remained seated and expressionless.
That's because, I didn't expect this, so I spent it all on Ashley's beauty treatments. Makeup and fashion cost a fortune,
Turning his back to us while changing his clothes, Logan said that without a hint of remorse. All the past hardships came flooding back to me. I couldn't stand the thought that he spent so much on his niece, Ashley, while keeping Mike so restricted. I have some savings too. I scrimped and saved because you told me to. But Logan just laughed out loud when he heard that.
Oh, the money hidden in that room. I spent all of that on Ashley too. Too bad.
That's a lie. It has to be a lie.
It's your fault. You used the same PIN as our joint account. Of course, I used it.
I felt a coldness spreading through my body. I never thought Logan would find out, so I set it to the same PIN as our joint account. But knowing this doesn't change the fact that it was my money. I couldn't stand it any longer and tried to confront Logan physically. Just before I could reach him, Mike stood up from his chair and grabbed my arm to stop me. Let go, Mike, please let me go.
Mom, it's okay. Because...
He whispered in my ear, and I suddenly stopped. Reassured by Mike's words, I continued with the enrollment process. I am Olivia. After graduating from a cosmetology school, I worked at a local beauty salon. Once, I was asked to do bridal makeup for a wedding guest. That's where I met Logan. I was focused on my work and didn't pay much attention, but Logan seemed to have fallen for me at first sight. He handed me a note with his contact information as he was leaving.
Sorry if this bothers you, but please call me if you're interested.
Getting such requests wasn't unusual in my job. Since I was thinking about marriage at that time, I saw it as fate and started dating him. Things moved quickly, and eventually, I married Logan. Married life was very blissful. But there was one issue that troubled me. My relationship with my Mill, Amelia. She was close to Logan's sister-in-law, Sophia. And she always compared me to Sophia. However, aside from that, things were smooth. A year after I got married, Sophia had Ashley, and shortly after, I had Mike. Later, a baby shower was held at Logan's family home for Ashley and Mike. Everyone's attention was on Ashley. With her bright eyes, she was bound to be a beauty, resembling Logan somehow, which made everyone jest about her being Logan's child. I felt uneasy hearing this. It's not pleasant to be told that a relative's child resembles your husband. But unaware of my feelings, Amelia was completely taken with Ashley.
She's just adorable, isn't she? I can't wait to see what she becomes. Unlike the other one, unfortunately.
She glanced at Mike as she said that and snickered. This made the other relatives snicker too.
Well, the other one doesn't really matter, does it? But Amelia, I want to make her become a model.
Hearing this, Amelia's face lit up.
A model? That's a brilliant idea. But how does one become a model?
Sophia answered with a smug look.
Don't worry, I may not look like it, but I have an experience as a model. I've got connections, you know?
Indeed, Sophia had been a part-time model during her college days. She wasn't a top seller, but the experience was significant. Her casual actions and fashion sense used that experience. Working in a salon, I could tell Sophia wasn't just full talk.
Really? That's reassuring.
Modeling, right. They often appear on TV.
Yes, exactly. Some of them even become actresses. If she becomes a model, we might get famous too.
At that, the relatives suddenly got excited, showering Ashley with hopeful words. Even Logan joined in, praising Sophia. Unnoticed by anyone, I was in the corner of the room, holding Mike in my arms. Mike gazed into my face with an innocent smile. Suddenly, I felt so sorry for him that I almost cried. Sophia, basking in everyone's attention, looked very pleased.
Well, everyone, children don't grow up overnight, so let's look forward to her growth.
I know. If you need money, just say the word. I'll pay whatever it takes.
Thank you so much, Amelia.
After that, we were completely ignored by the relatives. Struggling with the favoritism towards Ashley, I worked hard to raise Mike. Logan hardly helped with childcare at all. Please, Logan, spend some time with Mike. It's not fair to him. No matter how desperately I pleaded, Logan wouldn't listen.
Quiet, I'm busy with work. You alone should be enough to take care of him.
He would always brush everything off and ignore it, leaving me to handle everything. I regretted marrying Logan but didn't have the courage to leave. The only salvation came from my parents, who helped when I was at my lowest and truly adored Mike. Their support was the only thing keeping me together. Somehow, I managed to raise Mike. 10 years later, Mike had grown into a healthy middle schooler. Logan was still disinterested in parenting, but suddenly wanted to talk when he came home from work.
Mike's still at school, right? When will he be back?
He'll be back soon. What's up? The fact that Logan was asking about Mike gave me a bad feeling.
I want him to aim for medical school. Tell him to get ready to study for that.
Logan's cold words took me aback. Wait a minute. What are you suddenly saying? Don't decide his future on your own. Annoyed by my desperate plea, Logan clicked his tongue loudly.
Listen, I'm his father. You don't get a say. Got it?
I can accept that. You've never been involved in raising him.
Shut up. That's your role, isn't it? Are you earning enough to talk back to me?
Despite what Logan said, I couldn't back down. At least tell me why medical school?
It's obvious. It's for my parents' sake. It's for the looks.
I was shocked by his response. What does he think of his own child? However, Logan continued without paying attention to me.
You get it. We're always being compared to William's family. After all, Ashley is beautiful, but Mike has nothing going for him.
He seemed to have a lot of pent-up frustration and kept spewing harsh words.
It's a disgrace, a disgrace. So, he needs to at least become smart, understand.
I clenched my fists and couldn't say a word, feeling as if being stabbed by a knife.
Well, that's how it is. I'll tell Mike myself. He's going to study hard from now on, so don't you interfere.
With that, he left the room. I was worried about my son but couldn't defy Logan. I secretly resolved to support Mike as much as I could. Then Mike's days became filled with studying. After school, he would stay at the tutoring center until late at night, and on weekends, Logan found him a private tutor. He wasn't allowed any playtime outside of studying, and he couldn't even fully participate in school events. Whenever Mike's grades slipped even slightly, Logan would scold him mercilessly. Thanks to his efforts, Mike graduated at the top of his middle school class and entered a prestigious high school in the area. But Logan didn't ease up and ordered me to save money.
Hey, you, save money. We need it for tuition, so don't you dare spend on luxuries.
Please, let's stop this. This isn't good for anyone. Please reconsider. I desperately tried to stop Logan, but he wouldn't listen.
Shut up. Didn't I tell you not to interfere? If you keep nagging, I'll kick you out of the house.
I couldn't stand up to him after being threatened like that. But it was clear that Mike was overexerting himself. At this rate, his spirit might break. When Logan was out, I seized the moment to speak with Mike. Mike, are you okay? I need to talk to you for a minute. Mike was solving problems at his desk and glanced at me without stopping.
I'm okay for now, but I can talk long. I have to finish all this by tomorrow.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Dad says you have to go to med school, but it's not mandatory. If you want to do something else, it's okay to pursue that path. Hearing my words, Mike smiled gently.
Thanks, Mom. It's nice of you to say that. But I will aim for med school. It might make Dad recognize me, and he might start treating you better.
Mike's kindness made me want to cry. I felt ashamed of being submissive to Logan. Okay, I understand. But please don't hesitate to tell me if it gets too hard. I'm on your side, remember that.
I understand, Mom. I won't bear it all alone.
Then keep up the good work. With that, I left Mike's room and cried silently in the living room, careful not to let Mike hear me crying. In high school, Mike maintained top grades and applied to a national university's medical school. 3 years later, on the day of the results, Mike checked online. He tentatively looked at the screen, and his face brightened.
We did it, Mom. I got in.
Really? Congratulations. Mike and I shed tears of joy together. I immediately contacted Logan and went out to shop for a celebration. That evening, the dinner table was laden with lavish dishes. I talked with Mike about our hardships, waiting for Logan to come home. After 8 p.m., Logan returned from work, but he didn't look very pleased. What's wrong? Mike got into med school. Logan looked awkward.
I never really thought he'd actually pass.
He muttered to himself while taking off his suit jacket. What are you talking about? Of course, he passed. He worked so hard for it. Ignoring my confusion, Logan turned to Mike and said something unbelievable.
Mike, congratulations on your acceptance. But unfortunately, we can't afford the tuition.
I stood up from my chair, startled. Wait a minute, that's not right. Why can't we afford the tuition? Mike remained seated and expressionless.
That's because I didn't expect this to happen, so I spent it all.
On what?
Ashley's beauty treatments. She's going into modeling seriously now, so makeup and fashion cost a lot. It can't be helped.
Logan said this nonchalantly, turning his back to us while changing his clothes. All the hardships we had gone through came flooding back. I couldn't forgive him for spending on Ashley after restricting Mike so much. Enough already. What are we supposed to do now?
Shut up. Don't talk back to me like that.
Logan then glared at Mike and yelled.
What are you looking at? Didn't you hear? Figure out the tuition yourself. Don't rely on your parents.
Okay, I understand. I'll manage it myself.
Mike's face was like a mask, showing no emotion. It's okay, Mike. You don't have to worry. I stood in front of Logan to defend Mike. I have savings too. I saved desperately because you told me to. But Logan just laughed loudly upon hearing this.
Oh, the stash hidden in that room. I spent all of it on Ashley. Too bad.
No, that can't be true. It must be a lie.
If you think it's a lie, go see for yourself. It's your fault anyway. It's the same PIN you always use for the account. Of course, I used it.
I felt a coldness spread throughout my body. I never thought Logan would find it. I used the same PIN as our joint account. But even though he knows, it's still my money. I couldn't tolerate him for touching it. I can't forgive you anymore.
What? If you have complaints, say them.
I couldn't hold back and tried to grab Logan. Just before I could, Mike stood up from his chair and held my arm to stop me. Let go, Mike, please let go.
Mom, it's okay. Because...
He whispered softly, and I stopped abruptly. Logan, seemingly unaware, just smirked.
Good job, Mike. You see, she should learn from you. Talking back is useless.
Logan laughed at us and then went to take a bath. Relieved by Mike's words, I proceeded with the enrollment process. Mike had seen my struggle and had been preparing his own solutions. He had secretly started working part-time, unnoticed by Logan. I was surprised he could do that amid his busy schedule. But given his intensive study and the limited earning potential for students, Mike soon realized the difficulty of earning money and consulted my parents. My father, who worked in finance, knew a lot about that area. Apparently, Mike learned from my father how to earn money through stock trading. I wasn't aware, but Mike found out that one could start investing in stocks with as little as $100. Given his intelligence, Mike quickly learned how it worked. He invested the money he earned from his part-time job, gradually increasing his assets. Though he made money, it wasn't enough for him to be independent from our support, so Logan never found out about it. By the end of high school, Mike had managed to save enough for his college enrollment fees. I can even imagine how hard it must have been to earn that much. However, Mike had kept this a secret from everyone except my parents. Logan's parents never even gave Mike a Christmas present. Logan doted only on Ashley, spending money on her, while I covered all educational expenses with the money I earned. Had Logan known Mike was earning money, he would have taken it immediately. That's why we kept silent until the last moment. Amazed at Mike's intelligence, I felt compelled to take action. I decided to divorce Logan, believing that staying with him would only bring misery to both Mike and me. Afterward, Mike and Ashley graduated from high school. A celebratory meal was organized with Logan's family for the first time in a while. Logan's parents were probably surprised that Mike got into medical school, as everyone praised him, which made me happy. But I didn't let myself get too carried away. I was watching for an opportunity not to be missed. The graduation celebration ended successfully, and it was decided that we would gather again soon. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of the gathering. This was my chance. I brought the diaries I had been keeping and the DNA test results, knowing I couldn't show them to the two. After asking Mike and Ashley to play somewhere else, I declared in front of all the relatives that I was divorcing Logan. Please listen, everyone. I have decided to divorce Logan. The relatives fell silent, shocked by my announcement. Logan dropped his chopsticks in surprise.
What? You? Divorce? What are you suddenly talking about?
That's outrageous, even as a joke.
I placed the pile of diaries on the table. Everything that has happened to me is written here. If you want to know why, just read these. Logan smacked the pile of diaries angrily.
This is nonsense. Just complaints? What's the point?
The diaries scattered across the table. The relatives picked them up, whispering among themselves, while Logan's brother, William, read with interest.
Oh man, you're terrible. Haven't changed a bit since you were a kid.
Logan, angered by William's comment, slammed the table.
Even you're mocking me? The stuff written there is all lies, Olivia. Don't think this will end easily.
But for Mike's future, I couldn't back down. I placed the DNA test results on the table for everyone to see. Logan turned pale and tried to hide them, but William snatched them first.
Come on, don't hide it now. Better to lay it all out and feel relieved.
William smirked while reading the results, but his smile faded as he continued. The hand holding the DNA results was trembling, and the eyes were darting around.
What does this mean, Olivia?
William asked, his voice trembling. When Mike enrolled, we all gathered, right? That's when I secretly took Logan and Ashley's utensils and had their DNA tested. The results show they are parent and child. Sophia gasped and covered her mouth, visibly shaken. The revelation caused an uproar among the relatives, plunging the room into chaos.
Olivia, isn't this going too far?
On what basis did you do such a thing?
I explained the reasoning behind my suspicions to everyone. I always thought it was strange. Logan doted on Ashley more than Mike, and Ashley closely resembles Logan. That's why I thought they were having an affair. Sophia glared at me and threw a diary at me.
Don't make baseless accusations. Isn't this just a vendetta?
That's why I provided evidence. I'm fed up with this favoritism. I'm taking this chance to sever ties with all of you. My declaration of disownment incensed the relatives. The anger of Logan's parents was particularly intense.
It's unacceptable. Mike's medical school acceptance is our pride.
Yes, and now you talk of severance. What will the neighbors think? It looks bad for us.
I listened to Logan's parents' words with disdain. They had always favored Ashley and did nothing for Mike. Yet now they claimed pride in his achievement. It was too convenient. I don't care about your circumstances. What about Logan and Sophia's situation? All eyes turned to Logan and Sophia.
This is fake. She's framing us because we didn't pay attention to her.
Sophia desperately blurted out her words, and Logan joined in.
She's right, brother. Trust me, I wouldn't do such a thing. And the DNA was taken without consent. This proves nothing.
The relatives sided with Logan, and they started blaming us.
Olivia, you've done something outrageous. This isn't a laughing matter.
If you admit it now, apologize right here with him. We can let it go then.
I maintained a firm demeanor. Unfortunately, that DNA test is genuine. I have no reason to apologize. William glared at Logan, irritated by my stance.
You keep making a fool of us. Logan, say something. It's your responsibility too.
I'll listen to your complaints at home. So apologize now. Otherwise, you're troubling me and everyone.
Trying to save his own skin, Logan attempted to talk me down. If you keep saying it's fake, let's do another test with William, Logan, and Ashley. Then even William can be sure.
Enough already, Sophia exclaimed.
William gestured for her to calm down.
Indeed. We need to settle this once and for all. Let's test again.
But Logan and Sophia looked awkwardly at each other. Without noticing, Logan's father, Ethan, slammed the table.
Enough. Olivia, I will sue you for defamation. Prepare to pay a hefty compensation. Now get out.
So, I left the scene. Later, Ethan had Ashley and Logan retested to prove my claims false. Hiring a lawyer at great expense, he was desperate to make me apologize. A week later, we were summoned to Logan's family home again, where Ethan held the envelope with the DNA results.
Now that everyone is here, let's open this.
He then opened the envelope and began reading the DNA results. Amelia was smirking maliciously, already convinced of the lie.
Olivia, are you ready to apologize on your knees?
William crossed his arms, glaring at me, while Ethan remained silent. His face turning red as he continued to read the DNA results. Due to the prolonged silence, Amelia looked at him with suspicion.
What's taking so long? Hurry up and tell us the results.
William also looked anxiously towards Ethan, who sighed deeply and placed the DNA results on the table.
It's confirmed that Ashley and Logan are parent and child.
Amelia screamed in shock.
What? So, Sophia and Logan were really having an affair?
William was so angry he couldn't speak, just clenched his fists tightly.
Logan, explain yourself. Make us understand.
A vein throbbed on Ethan's forehead. Next to a sweating Logan who looked down, Sophia covered her face and collapsed on the table. An awkward silence lingered on. And it was Sophia who broke the silence.
It's not my fault. It's Logan's fault.
She tearfully explained how the affair started. Feeling lonely because Logan's brother, William, was always busy with work, she became closer to Logan as she complained, and eventually she got pregnant with Ashley. She confessed they concocted a plan to keep it secret from their partners. William, upon hearing this, lunged at Logan.
How could you act so normal all this time? You must have been mocking me inside.
Logan, shaken by William, desperately tried to justify himself.
I wasn't mocking. I got carried away. I respect you, brother. I thought Ashley was cute, and I felt responsible, so I wanted to raise her properly.
Hearing this, I sighed deeply, feeling more pity than anger. Logan's parents seemed utterly disgusted by their son's disgrace.
What a shameful display. Sophia, we're getting a divorce. Pack your things and leave once we get home.
Sophia looked up and clung to William.
Wait, it was just a moment of confusion. I love you.
But William looked at her with contempt.
You might say that, but I can no longer love you.
Sophia wailed and curled up on the floor. Ethan coldly observed.
This is unprecedented. Logan, Sophia, you both are a disgrace to our family. Don't ever appear before me again.
Thus, Logan, Sophia, and Ashley were ostracized. I proceeded with the divorce from Logan, who was stalling. So I consulted my father for a competent lawyer. The lawyer's efforts finally settled the divorce. Logan's resistance increased the settlement, and he ended up paying more alimony and child support than average. I plan to claim the child support for Mike's college expenses. Sophia's divorce with William was finalized, and she and Ashley began living with Logan. Their life seemed much harder than before. Ashley and I started talking more, and she became closer to Mike.
I was also pressured by my parents and relatives to become a model, which was tough. This situation was shocking, but I feel relieved now.
Ashley also kept in contact with William, through whom we learned about the aftermath at Logan's family home. Amelia, unable to contain her shock, portrayed herself as a tragic heroine to the neighbors, exposing the family's shame. This led to them being ridiculed. As it turned out, the neighbors disliked Logan's family, seizing the opportunity to mock them. Consequently, Logan's parents, their pride wounded, became recluses in their own home. And just like that, they abandoned their house overnight and moved somewhere else. But since we were estranged, it no longer concerned me. Mike and I moved back to my parents' house. Mike is thoroughly enjoying his university life, focusing on his studies while also engaging in part-time work and club activities. It seems he even has a girlfriend now, and he's having the time of his life. I also rented a property from my parents and opened a cooking school there. Having my own school has been a long-held dream, so I'm truly happy. Ashley seemed interested in this kind of work and asked to be hired as a part-time employee. I hired her at Mike's request, and she's been a great help, working very hard. After a long period of struggle, everything has turned out well. Now, earning a living doing what I love, I am very content.